I failed so many times at sourdough, got overwhelmed with all the tutorials, wanted nothing to do with it, and then one day, little bird said, just try again. Try to simplify it. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm gonna bring you guys through the most simple way that I make sourdough for my family once or twice a week. We eat this stuff like it's water. So step one is going to be getting a starter. I went to a local bakery. I'm Canadian, so Anita's all the way. And I asked the people at the counter there if they just had some starter. And sure enough, they did, which was really exciting because I'm very impatient. And when I wanna learn something, I wanna do it right now. And I bet you're like that too. That's probably why you clicked on this video. You want it to just be something you can do. So get yourself a starter and ask them if it's been in the fridge, for how long it's been in the fridge. If they just put it in the fridge in the last day or so, pull it on out and feed it right away. Now, feeding it is not complicated. Just put in equal parts flour and water. So for me, that's usually half a cup. So I put half a cup flour, half a cup water, and then I stirred it all up and left it for 4 or 5 hours. Then I'm gonna take a peek at my sourdough starter and just see, is it bubbly? Because right now it's sure bubbly. I'm gonna zoom you guys on in. It's gotta be bubbly. It's gotta smell sour, and it's gotta look active, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect though. I've actually left my starter on the counter for way too long, 6 or 7 hours instead of the 4 or 5, and it still worked out fine. So let's not be too picky about it. Just go ahead and get the starter fed and rising. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna use my food scale and I'm going to measure out 950 grams of flour. I'm gonna use primarily the white flour, but I have a little bit of rye left here and I like the flavor, the nuttiness of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use that up as well.
My kiddos really like just white sourdough, but I really do like to add just a little bit of something whole grain. So next time I might try like commute or spelt, but right now I'm only being able to do like a third of one of the kinds and then the rest white, just because it really just helps with like the consistency of like the bread, I find. So the kids will eat it that way. That's what we got to do. Maybe I can convert them slowly over to a healthier version of this bread.
Next, I'm going to zero out my scale so we can start fresh here. And I'm going to pour in 200 grams of my
or you might have to feed it
sourdough
one
starter
time to get it started again if it's been in the fridge for a long time. So I just added my salt. It takes a long time to grind that amount of salt, so I recommend just getting one that you can dump in there. For a while now I had to grind it, and it was so exhausting on my wrist, like a total workout.
Then I'm going to put in some fine salt. I like to use the kind that I can open like this because simplicity. And we are putting in 20 grams of salt. I know that feels like a lot, but it really is an important step.
Waiting until
so
10
do
o'clock
not
to
skip it.
shape your sourdough and then
21
put it into
sounds
the fridge
good.
is somewhat exhausting. So now I'm adding my water and it's room temperature, and I'm going to give it a really good stir, mix it all up. This recipe is to make 2 loaves. I really don't think that I would ever make 1 loaf just because we do have such a big family, but these freeze really well, and batch cooking is truly how it goes with this big family.
Okay, so the next step is just mixing it all up and letting that flour really absorb the moisture. I hate the feeling of getting stuff under my nails. Not a huge fan of that. Some of you are like right in there with your hands. Some of you prefer a spoon. I'm gonna go the glove route this time and we'll just see how it goes. In the past, a spoon has been fine, but I really feel like massaging in the moisture into the flour really helps it. So let's give it a go.
Seeing as a lot of you guys follow me for my health and fitness and faith content, I always want to go back to that. So in doing this sourdough recipe, I want you guys to remember that sourdough and eating homemade bread, even though you don't know the calories on it, I know it can feel so tempting, especially if you're someone who tracks food, to not want to eat homemade things because it doesn't have the calories and we kind of need to guess. Let me encourage you to just go for it and do your best guess. A guess is good enough sometimes.
Okay, so the first time you do the stretch and folds, you will notice that it is not very stretchy at all. And as you do the next set, it gets a little bit better and a little bit better. So this always is a bit awkward the first time, but I like to get my hands a little bit wet because their dough right now is incredibly sticky. So I'm gonna get my hands wet and then I'm going to pull upwards and fold, spin my bowl, pull upwards and fold, spin my bowl, do it again and again.
This really isn't that finicky. These stretch and folds are pretty straightforward. You just get your hands underneath, stretch that dough up as much as you can, fold it over, and then turn your bowl. And then you're going to flip that dough underneath the current dough situation. And then start on a different side and do it again. Do it 4 times if you can. I find that every time I do a little stretch and fold, it gets a little bit stiffer just because I'm kind of like pushing it all back together as I like crunch it underneath there. You know what I mean? As I smush it underneath there. But it does work, and it is fairly simple. If you don't do these perfectly, the likelihood is still that your bread is going to turn out. I know a lot of these videos make it seem so precise and so like intense, but really it worked for me the first time, and I'm not a professional. I just did some stretching and some folding, and I did this 4 times every 20 minutes. Even if you don't do it every 20 minutes, you totally forget, you don't set a timer, it ends up being half an hour. It's probably going to work out just fine. You're going to let this rest at room temperature for at least 6 hours. If you want to long ferment it, which means it's just going to have a little bit more fermentation process going on there, you can leave it like even 8 hours. So this is after it's been sitting. I'm getting my 2 just stainless steel bowls. I don't have proofing baskets. I've got nothing fancy. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread out some flour my bowls. And this is parchment paper I have in there. It's just much easier to transfer your dough with that parchment paper from here into your Dutch oven. And so I'm going to grab it out and I'm going to cut it in half, and then we'll be able to kind of like flip it around, make it into its little ball. I have this little pinch method. I have no idea if it's the right way, but it certainly works for me. So take a look at what I do with my hands so that you can learn how to do that too. So we're just going to cut this right in half and then start with 1 ball at a time. The only tricky thing about sourdough is being available to do the steps, right? Like, you know, the steps are going to take you a few minutes for each one, and it's not a big deal, but if you're not home, then it's really going to be challenging to get all those different steps done. I usually do this at noon, like I said, and then by the time it's evening, I'm getting these dough balls ready. As you can see, I'm just grabbing from each side, and I'm just pinching in the middle and kind of like flipping it around itself so that that sticky part of the dough holds together. And then I'm just going to kind of form it into a ball, and it's really as simple as that, you guys. There's nothing fancy about this. Flipping it over, and then I'm going to stick it into one of those 2 bowls and move on to the next one. Okay, so it is evening time, and I am putting the babies into the fridge for the night. It's probably about 8 p.m. here. Usually you want it to be in for at least 15 hours, but to be honest, I usually only leave it in for 12. It is day 2. I've pulled out the sourdough that was in the fridge from overnight. Now I'm just gonna set my oven to 500. My oven is kind of hot, so I might actually just do it at 475, but the recipe says 500. And then I'm gonna stick my 2 Dutch oven pots to heat up. Okay, these pots are hot and ready to come out, and then we're gonna put our bread inside after we do one more thing. Really hot, act fast. Okay, I'm doing nothing fancy with this, but I am gonna make like a little pattern right down the middle with my scissors. I do not have a razor. Like I said, you guys, I don't wanna invest $1,000 to start this sourdough thing. I just wanted to like do it, you know? So I did my best to use what I had with these bowls, and I just put a few crosses, kind of like a little wheat clove thingy, I don't know. And then 1, 2, try to make a line on this side. Ta-da. Okay, this part can feel a little bit tricky just because the loaf kind of loses its shape with the big pot, but I bought this big pot on purpose because I wanted to use it for more than just sourdough making. So we're just gonna do our best to get this on in there without messing it up too much.
Sometimes it gets stuck to the side of the bowl where my parchment wasn't. We got it. Don't touch the pot. That is a trick to not forget. You can hear it like sizzling. Okay. Now as quick as you can, get your lids back on and stick it back in the oven for 20 minutes with the lid on. After
That first 20 minutes, I am opening up the oven to remove the lid so that they can cook for the next 20 minutes. They're already starting to look really beautiful, and I can't wait to see the end result, and they're gonna taste so good.
Okay, this is gonna be good. I'm excited. Okay. Oh yeah, they're beautiful.
They are officially done and they look amazing. I know this video isn't my normal content. I usually talk more about faith and fitness and how we're going to be healthy in our bodies, but cooking is all part of that. So I'm so grateful that you are here, sister. If you love this type of content, talking about faith, fitness, God, and all of that, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. Check out this video that I posted last week if you're interested in getting the exact blueprint for a reset for your summer, feeling good in your body and honoring it the way that God made it. Have a good day. Bye.